everyone, this is Big Entertainment and we are back again, and here now we have another video for you, and we're going to talk about James Gunn's Superman once more and do some box office reporting on its second weekend of theatrical release, covering the period of Friday the 18th to the 21st of July 2025. Now there may be spoilers throughout for the movie itself, so just be aware when going to this video, and you can check out both my non-spoiler and spoiler reviews of the film, and I'll leave some links within the description. So we'll get straight into it then in terms of looking at the numbers, and firstly within US cinemas, the movie retained the #1 spots with a weekend gross of around $57 million. Then that gives it a total of over $235 million domestically. Now internationally, the film added around another 70 million or so to push its overall global tally to just over $400 million. So when continuing the analysis of this movie, which has been never-ending and intense, especially when you look at social media, this overall search for the answer as to whether this is an overall success or a flop. Well, I think in terms of the US market, I think the second weekend was a very good hold. Any blockbuster which has around a 57% drop is a very healthy one. Typically, these type of movies experience at least 60%, maybe even higher. They tend to be very front loaded in their first weekend. So I think this was a very good showing for the film. It's also been pulling a lot of strong weekday totals, including a 70 million take in terms of Tuesday, the 15th of July. And that's always a good sign if you're pulling in that type of consistent numbers all throughout the week, as well as having good showings over the weekend. So it certainly looks like Superman would at very least gross more domestically than the likes of, let's say, Sinners, F1 or How to Train a Dragon. The dilemma, as we talked about last week, is the overseas markets, which in terms of the numbers are continuing to show decline. The movie just hasn't connected overseas in the same way that it has within the US. Now this could be down to the issue of superhero fatigue. This is something that we have seen right across the board in all of the superhero movies. We've spent lots of time on this channel talking about the decline in terms of the Marvel films, and also even further the Sony Spider-Verse films. So in some way or shape or form, it's not surprising that we are seeing this. We also look at James Gunn's tone and sensibilities in terms of his more comedic and humour style, and that may as well not have transcended very well in overseas markets. Now, certain critics and pundits have brought up the facts of Superman's status as an American iconic superhero, and that could be the reason which would have alienated audiences overseas today. Because of the whole perception of America, we could spend hours talking about how, at the very least, outside of the country itself, many people are still very divided on America in terms of its status and also the president that leads the country right now. Now, I will push back a little bit on that suggestion, because we look at, in particular, the likes of Captain America, whose movies have enjoyed massive success internationally as well as domestically, and he is very much more of a American jingoistic type of character rather than Superman, who, yes, whilst based in America, we all can agree also that he is very much a world-saving hero. And plus the fact that this is Superman, still the most recognisable and cultural superhero character today. So whether you are from America or from overseas, everybody knows this character. They all know what he stands for, where he comes from. So there should be no real difficulty in relating or identifying with him. If indeed the character hasn't been able to resonate across the world, then that is really down to how the movie is or the interpretation of the character itself. The same reasons as what we brought up last week in terms of the DC brand and how damaged it has been. We mentioned last week all of the lasting phases of the Snyderverse really left a bad aftertaste in terms of audiences. So despite the fact that this is a new era and James Gunn's first chapter, it is still a DC brand, and many people may have been turned off or find it hard to come back to what is yet another DC superhero movie. So then we go to the question, is Superman going to be an ultimate hit or not? Well, last week I did state that really to be a hit, it really needs to gross at least $750 million worldwide. I don't think after these numbers that it's going to quite reach that. We mentioned last week as well that Fantastic Four First Steps will be releasing this week, and the early projections that it will be making at least a US debuting weekend of around 110 to 140 million dollars, and this will definitely take away some of the legs from Superman. Yes, we can state that both Captain America Brave New World and Thunderbolts failed to underperform, but I do think there's a bit more hype riding around the fact that this is Fantastic Four, the fact that we are dealing with Galactus, so there's much more of a threatening antagonist, a much more imposing antagonist that carries a certain awe and wonder. Hopefully the movie will manage to capture this. There is, of course, the controversy surrounding the female Super Surfer, so many people will at least tune in to see how they project that character or a version of that character. And we can't deny that once more the online, I will say probably divisiveness at very least, people may call it more negative perception in terms of the casting, and in particular we have to mention Pedro Pascal, an actor who has generated again much more negative perception, particularly online, not due to his acting abilities. I actually think Pedro Pascal is quite a sound actor, and there is something to be said that for all of the many movies and television shows that he seems to be involved in, he wouldn't be as such if he were indeed a bad actor. So that's something to be said there. But this is all to do with the whole fallout of the Gina Carano and Mandalorian situation. So again, that could put off audiences, or on the one hand, that may draw audiences to actually go and see if Pedro can deliver in terms of Reed Richards. So I do think Fantastic Four First Steps is going to carry a far bigger impact than the previous 2 monthly installments released this year, and again that's going to eat into the potential take-ins of Superman overall. Now Warner Brothers has come out and stated that they are not too worried about the supposed underperformance, that they would be happy with anything above 500 million, and of course they have to publicly come out and show support for the universe, particularly as this is the first chapter. But I do think deep down they were hoping for at least 700 million, something close or equal to what we saw with Matt Reeves' Batman, which I think did achieve around $770 million worldwide. Certain sections of online commentary deemed that a certain underperformance when you consider the previous Nolan entries, which did manage to gross $1 billion each. But $1 billion was never a realistic target for James Gunn's Superman. I will say again, overall, I do believe it has to at least match or indeed exceed the gross of Man of Steel, which grossed around $670 million when that was released back in 2013. If it doesn't, it's not a good look, and plus, of course, the frenetic Snyder fans will just embolden themselves even further if this doesn't manage to come anywhere near Man of Steel's take, and we will further intensify the debate as whether the Snyderverse should have continued, whether that would have made much more money, given the fact that this new iteration hasn't deemed to be as monetarily successful. So overall, I would still maintain that we are probably looking at a gross of around $500 to $600 million worldwide. Now, whether Warner Brothers will give James Gunn enough time to see this chapter fully realised, we will wait and see overall. But it will bode questions as to what's coming forward in terms of both Supergirl and Clayface also, and the eventual iteration of both Batman and Wonder Woman later on down the line. But so far after this second weekend, I would probably say we're looking at a decent hit at best, rather than a mega success or a mega flop overall. So those were my thoughts and feelings when looking back at the box office for the second weekend of release for James Gunn's Superman. Let me know what you think in the comments below. And if you have any other further movies, television series, or any other topics within the pop entertainment and culture scene that you'd like to see me cover within the channel, then also let me know in the comments, and I'll see if I can provide further commentary for you on that subject matter within the future. Please also hit and like the subscription and notification buttons so I can provide you with more high quality content like this in the future. But that's it for now. Take care of yourselves, and I will see you very, very soon.